Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this morning's webinar on current and future opportunities in low Earth orbit, delivered by the UK Space Agency. Very happy to welcome you today to talk to you about the range of opportunities we have, including current and upcoming opportunities, as well as longer term opportunities, including the SEA LEO programme, which was announced last week. Sorry about this, we're having a minor technical hiccup. So this morning's agenda is, I'll give you a brief introduction to myself, the team, and the other teams that are joining us, and we'll hear more about the work of the telecoms team, the work of the General Support Technology Programme team, and the navigation team as well. And then we'll hear some more about the announcement that you heard last week. So sorry, we're having a bit of trouble fixing on the slides. So at the UK Space Agency, some of you may have heard the various teams talk about the National Space Strategy before, but I just wanted to put it into the context of what we're trying to achieve in low Earth orbit. So we have three main pillars to the strategy. The first one is catalysing investment in the UK space sector, and all of our activities around low Earth orbit are really looking to maximise the value of this emerging technology and market. And we do that through match funding, research and development activities, but we also do that on a commercial basis of funding future commercial capabilities in the UK. On delivering missions and capabilities, we're increasingly leading the way in the agency on the kinds of missions and capabilities that are being delivered. For example, we ran a competition at the end of last year, and we set industry a challenge to develop a new mission for a kind of optical test bed in space. And within 7 months, we'd had 3 proposals with 3 completely different options for how we run missions, and that's now going towards contract. And I think that shows how much missions are moving from institutionally led, very large funding systems to much more commercial, flexible and agile missions. And lastly, championing the power of space to improve lives. So we're increasingly seeing low Earth orbit markets delivering in new sectors, and I'll be talking about what some of those are. And those sectors are changing the way people connect to one another and to machines around the world, and are changing people's lives through the commercial implementation of those systems. So sorry about this. So this morning we'll hear from several of the teams at the UK Space Agency delivering on low Earth orbit constellations. Let's start with my team. My name is Henny Sands. I'm the head of telecoms at the UK Space Agency, and I run the telecoms delivery team, which manages the ARTES the UK contribution to the ARTES programme, which is advanced research and technology systems, and that's run through the European Space Agency. I'll talk about that in a moment. We're also joined by Dean Thomas from Positioning, Navigation and Timing, and Helen Roberts from General Support Technology. And there are other programmes in the agency that are also delivering on this, including the National Space Innovation Programme and the newly formed Space Ecosystems, which runs programmes like SCIF, which is for space infrastructures in the UK. And the newest team of all is the LEO team, which is going to be developing the C-LEO programme, which we'll talk about. So why the focus on LEO? As a telecoms team, we're acutely aware that satellite communication generates a significant global revenue, £140 billion at the last count, and that contributes to hundreds of billions of pounds through wider telecoms activity. The UK has a growing satellite communication industry, and it contributes nearly £12 billion to the UK economy. But it's also a rapidly changing market, and we know that a lot of that £12 billion is currently locked up in direct-to-home broadcast, delivered through geostationary satellites. So what we're looking to do is to build on the heritage of the UK and to pivot towards high-volume LEO design and manufacture. So the reason why we're doing this is because the nature of space is changing, and for decades we've had small sats, and what we're seeing now is a form of consolidation in the market where the traditional large industrial capabilities required to produce satellites are now pivoting towards developing very large constellations in low Earth orbit. And this change is having a big impact. So we know, for example, that we're no longer looking to build satellites for 25 years, with 25 years of radiation hardening. And with much shorter lifespans comes a much quicker turnover of technology. All of that is making space more accessible. And it's also transforming the relevance of satellite communications, so that increasingly we're seeing satellite systems being built to tie in and to align with terrestrial networks and systems too. That in itself is creating whole new markets, and it's transforming existing markets. So, for example, the maritime sector has extensive opportunities opened up by having increased capacity over the world's oceans. And that's also creating opportunities to develop new capabilities. And that's really the key point of this webinar. So we're looking at the market, and we're talking to industry, we're talking to universities about what capabilities can the UK continue to develop, and what capabilities can we bring in that are new to the UK. And so all of our attention at the moment, including the announcement on the C-LEO programme, is looking at how do we develop those key capabilities. And to give you an example of that, we've recently supported the development of a 5G satellite testbed in our partners' premises at the European Space Agency at EXAT. This is a chance for operators, suppliers, and others and application developers to trial their systems with converged networks, so including satellite systems in their testing. And we run competitions to do that. And over the last year, we've run 3 competitions that look to develop those converged systems, and that gives you this slide gives you a little bit of a rundown on those. But the hub more broadly is a way for us to work with terrestrial industry partners to help develop the next generation of space technologies. So looking at the current opportunities in LEO, we'll now focus on existing programs, and I'm going to start with a quick overview of the telecoms team at the UK Space Agency. So the agency is changing from a very traditional science and exploration focused agency model towards a much more commercially focused agency looking to catalyse investment. And my team sit within the new investment directorate. So our goal is to help industry, help academia identify and attract new investment. And we support UK industry to deliver the commercial satellite communications infrastructure needed for low Earth orbit constellations and other applications. And we do that, as I said, through the ESA ARTES programme. The ESA ARTES programme itself is part of the European Space Agency subscription. Last year, we subscribed £1.8 billion over 3 years to deliver a range of space activities. ARTES accounts for over 10% of that, and it's also some of the most accessible funding to industry. So all of it will go through competitive entry programs, and it is open to industry. We're open to listening to your ideas about kinds of activities you want us to support. And we support a whole range of activity through there. So outside of low Earth orbit, we also support some activities in GEO and MEO orbit, but increasingly we're looking at lunar orbit as well as telecommunications networks expand outside of Earth. And as I said, all of that is through competitive entry competitions. A little bit of a word on how ESA works. So you'll see some of our competitions ask for or promise as an outcome national delegate support, which is a way of saying that we will fund the programme. So all it means is that in order for the European Space Agency to approve programmes, they first need to know that we're supported. So we run competitions to understand what we want to support, and when we then provide that national delegate support. We do that through 3 main entries. So we have themed calls, and I'll talk in a moment about a call that's open at the moment. We have a general call, and we have advanced technology, which is for early TRLs. We work really closely with ESA on this, and we work with them in terms of content, in terms of assessment, and in terms of ensuring a quick time to contract. And just as a quick run through the rules, so you must be a UK-based entity. You must tell us if you're planning to work with non-UK partners, as that may impact funding, it may impact regulation, depending on where your partners are. We have different rates for different sized businesses. And we essentially don't fund any activity that comes back to government. So we don't fund licensing or regulatory compliance, because it would be like paying ourselves. So 2 current and upcoming opportunities in LEO. We have our aerial connectivity call, which closes on the 1st of September. And this is a £20 million funding envelope to support development of communications in HAPS, HAIL, which is high altitude long endurance platforms, and in drones as well. So we're not looking to support platforms here. We're looking to support connectivity payloads that will allow those platforms to access connectivity markets. You can find out more on our website. And then the next funding call we have launches on the 11th of September, and that will be what we consider a routine funding call, but we have an £8 million funding envelope with no higher or lower limit on what we'll fund to provide any technology, product or service that you want us to consider. So that's completely open. It's one of the most open calls in the agency. And again, details of that will be live on the 11th of September as well. And we've got details throughout how you can stay in touch. But if you do want early notification of these, please let us know. At this point, I will hand over to my colleague, Helen Roberts, in the GSTP programme.
Thanks, Henny. As Henny mentioned, I'm Helen Roberts and I'm the Programme Manager for GSTP and have been for the last 5 years. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about GSTP at PACE today. It's ESA's flagship technology programme. It's been in existence for 30 years this year. And it's an optional programme, which means the UK and other member states don't have to subscribe to it, but they do. And at the last ministerial, which was in November 22, they increased the subscription from 40 million in 2019 to 83 million in 2022. But this came with caveats. So we ring-fenced a number of new components where we dedicated support for those. So we have the EEE components, which covers electrical, electronic and electromechanical components, and there was 15 million euros subscribed to that. Endua, which is the nuclear-based programme, 23 million euros was subscribed to that. And then Solaris, which is space-based solar power, 5 million euros was subscribed to that. We have a fairly large portfolio of projects in the region of 100. And we consider the programme to be very flexible. So with regards to GSTP, we will consider supporting any technology unless it's purely telecoms. And if it's purely telecoms, then you will need to speak to my colleagues in ARTES. The minimum TRL start level is TRL level 3, and we do go up to TRL level 9, and this is split over 3 different elements, which I will talk about shortly. We work with startups, SMEs, micro SMEs, primes, academia, non-space companies, and also collaborations both within the UK and across other member states. We will only consider supporting the UK element of any proposal. And as with ARTES, you have to be a UK-based entity. So these are 3 elements I mentioned: develop, make and fly. The majority of our activities sit within develop, I would say in the region of 95%. And then we have make, which is mostly used by established SMEs and the primes. And then we have element 3, which is fly. So element 1, there are 2 avenues in with regards to element 1. We have your competitive ITT route, and we ran a call for requesting interest in potential ITTs. These were these could be found as a part of a compendia that was issued by ESA back in November last year, and a further compendia relating to the EEE component was issued earlier this year. So we have made a decision as to which ITTs we will be supporting, and this information can be found on our website, including when they are likely to be issued on the ESA STAR system. So that's the competitive ITT route. The other route is through the frameworks, and we have 2 frameworks, namely de-risk and building block activities. And I should add that the majority of our activities in GSTP are 100% funded in element 1. So element 2, we have make, and as I mentioned, this is mostly for your established SMEs and the primes, where a technology is closer to market, and we ask for match funding immediately for these activities. And element 3 is fly. So I should have added element 2 and element 3 are permanent open calls. So these are the dates that we have for calls. We have one upcoming on the 15th of August. So if you have any unsolicited proposals that you would like to submit to us using either the de-risk or the building block framework, then please refer to our website, and all information is available there, including the application process. Or if you would like further information, please email us at the GSTP inbox, but we have very comprehensive information online. We will also be running information sessions online starting in September, and again these will also be available online with the dates. That's all from me, and I'll hand over to Dean.
Good morning. So I'm Dean Thomas, and I look after all things PNT within the UK Space Agency, so that's positioning, navigation and timing, and in particular I look after the Navigation Innovation Support Programme, which again is another ESA programme. We're working through ESA with this. So positioning, navigation and timing is arguably the biggest sector of the space industry, but almost all of that activity, which is likely to be $500 billion worth or €500 billion worth by 2032, is in the downstream. What do we do with NAVISP? Well, NAVISP is about nurturing industrial capability, so really helping the PNT industry grow in the UK, helping grow our expertise in this area, raising technology readiness levels for PNT product, services and applications, supporting national and commercial initiatives, and using ESA's PNT expertise. Obviously ESA have got a lot of PNT engineers. They've got the Galileo and EGNOS programs, and we get access to them through the NAVIS program, and helping companies mitigate the risks associated with innovation. So just as the other programs refreshed their budgets last year in the Council of Ministers, we did as well. Sorry, the slides have gone a little bit out of order here. Our subscription last year was €32 million to the NAVISP programme, which is the largest it's ever been, and we are the largest contributor to this programme by quite some margin. But most of the ESA member states contribute to the programme, and we do encourage collaboration across the programme. So just talking about the structure of the programme, very much like GSTP, it's split into three elements, but the elements are slightly different. It's simpler in many respects. I'll just talk about them each in turn. So element one is a series of ITTs that will come out during the course of each year. There is a work plan prepared. This can be found on the NAVISP website. If you just want to find more information about NAVISP, just search for ESA NAVISP. It will take you to the website and you'll be able to find out about the work plan for this current year, 2023. There are about 15 ITTs that have either come out, some are currently open, some will be coming out later in the year. These are usually low TRL projects. They're 100% funded. It's a fully open competition. All member states can participate, but some member states exclude some of the ITTs. They don't participate. We leave all the ITTs open to our industry to bid. Like with ARTES, you need a letter of support from the delegate for the member state, so you need to approach us as well as approaching ESA in order to get that letter of support, and I'll have contact details at the end of this set of slides. So if you are interested in any of those ITTs, please approach us as part of your process of preparing a bid for those ITTs. The second one is an open call. So this is open at any point. You can submit an unsolicited proposal at any point, and what we do ask you to do in this instance is contact us first. Usually we have a conversation with industry first before they put in any kind of proposal to understand whether it's within scope, whether it's something we want to prioritise, not to waste anybody's time. And then we ask you to fill in a questionnaire and submit a short proposal to us in the UK Space Agency, and then We assess those. We have a monthly panel that assesses those, and if you are successful in that assessment, then we will ask you to submit an outline proposal to ESA. This is part funded, it's co-funded. So element 2, if you're an SME, you get 80% funding. If you're a large company, 50% funding. Academic participants get 100% funding, but they need to go through a commercial prime. And that is where we put the larger portion of our budget, is into element 2. It's definitely industry led, not led by us. And then there's a final element, which is really to deal with member state strategic initiatives. So this is where really the market's not going to provide the answer for us. There is a capability gap in government, and usually here we have to work with industry and a government department, or more than one government department, that has a gap in terms of their navigation or positioning or timing access or capabilities. So this is driven by the government end customer. This is also 100% funded. These are usually slightly larger projects. We're open for industry to submit unsolicited ideas here, but they have to bear in mind that they have to have a government customer. So we can help with that, or you can talk to the government department where you think there's a gap. And finally, really the contact information. Really the first step for any proposal, whether it's for element 1, 2 or 3, is to contact us through the email address navisp@ukspaceagency.gov.uk at the top there, and either set up a meeting or just introduce us to your idea, or to the fact that you're thinking of bidding for one of the ITTs in element 1, and then we will take it from there. Thank you. That's all I have to say on NAVIS.
Thanks, Dean. I'll take over for the next section then, which is to look at the announcement we made last week on the Connectivity in LEO programme. So I expect everyone will have read the announcement, just waiting for the slide to update. And what I wanted to do today is to give you a flavour for some of the existing opportunities that are available right now in LEO, some of those opportunities that are going to be coming up over the next few months, and we've looked at what they are. And then really to give you a bit of a longer term view and to talk a little bit more about the announcement last week, as I know that there are lots of questions from you all in industry looking at what this means and what the practical application for that is. So, what are we proposing under the Connectivity in LEO programme? And you'll see some of this text appeared in the announcement last week, but what I'll do is give a bit more context. So essentially, it's a potential £160 million scheme to help industry pivot towards low Earth constellation service and delivery and operation. As I sort of set out earlier, with the changing markets, changing capabilities, this is a programme that we're developing as part of a broader activity on low Earth orbit constellation support to help that pivot towards much higher volume, much more industrialised small sat production. And it builds on the existing heritage that we know exists in the UK, both in small sat production, but also in geostationary satellite production as well. So as I said, we know that constellations are actively being developed, and we're on to more and more iterations of more and more constellations. And so what we're looking to support industry to do is to be able to pivot towards landing those high volume contracts and being able to supply those constellation operators with high volume products and services in new and existing capabilities. However, the programme is under development, and I can't stress that enough, really. This is an early sight of our intention to consider the programme. So all of this is subject to standard government business case and other approvals that we're actively working through. And that begs the question, why are we telling you that now? And I'll just wait for the slide to update. So, well, I'll talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing in the meantime as well. But we're telling you that now because we want to provide you with the insight that you need to start planning your activities over the next 12 months. But we also want to involve you in the scheme's design as well. So we don't want to just announce a programme and roll it out. We want to actively engage with you in industry and academia, and there'll be a survey coming out shortly on some of the different options we have to take this forward, and we'd be really keen to have your view, and it's your chance to help shape not just the direction of a single programme, but how that programme is delivered in the UK as well. So it's a really important time to be able to do that. At the moment, we're looking at what capabilities we should be supporting and which critical areas we should be looking to show leadership in. And so those are also part of our design process. So we want to hear your view. We have ideas about what they might be, but we want to make sure they're relevant and that they will attract the commercial and economic benefits to the UK. At the moment, we know that there is a national programme element which forms part of a potential programme, and we know that there's an ARTES element as well. And so what we're looking to do is to create one single programme, so one single hybrid programme that sits across our partners in the European Space Agency with our own ability to deliver a national programme. That means one single front door that we'll be working towards, one single governance structure for advice and inquiries, for applications and for decision making. And so that means a much simpler user experience for you out there potentially bidding for a programme, but it also means a much simpler application process. So you don't need to become an expert in the programme to be able to deliver a winning bid. And all of this will be delivered in a standard government format, so it will be through competitive entry frameworks, and we'll again be looking to you in industry for what that means in practice, how often the competitions will be run, the kind of envelopes that you in industry will be looking for. So what are we announcing? As I said, it's a formative stage at the moment, so it's a really good chance to be able to capture a large part of the capability in the market to deliver particular priority areas. And as I said as well, this is our intention. We're announcing our intention to set up a programme, and we're looking at the best way to design and deliver that. As I said, we're conducting a user survey, so please do stay in touch, and I'll share some details about what that looks like. We're also proposing to hold some design workshops across the UK with potential users to help develop our understanding of the capabilities to take forward and how the scheme will be designed. And really, by announcing it early, what we're looking to do, as I said, is help you understand what our long-term commitment is, what our long-term outlook is in terms of support. So what's next? Well, firstly, we'd like to hear from you. So we'd like to hear from you on our survey. If you're interested in joining a workshop, then look out for ways of doing that. As I said, we're looking to run them across the UK. And subject to approvals, any programme that we take forward will be expected to go live through either competition or further announcements in early 2024. At the moment, we're working through the exact timescale for that, And the next announcement will be we'll really look to announce something subject to all of the usual approvals around that time frame as well. So the simplest way to stay in touch is through telecoms at ukspaceagency.gov.uk, but you'll see that there's some details for joining mailing lists on all of the programmes on, I think, the next slide. On the next slide after this. So that just leaves me to say thank you very much for joining. I hope that's answered some of your questions.